What's good with you? We're back for another episode of What's Good with You, and I got some people, some very talented people. I feel like y'all's talent is just like, you know, bleeding onto me. Like, it's just, I feel it in the room. Well, we got Chef Beans, of course.
Yeah, Chef Beans coming through with the mental cuisine. And I just want to say, because you know I got to speak what's on my chest. You said our talent is bleeding onto you, but your talent as well is bleeding onto us.
I feel like it's a trifecta going on.
Yes, come on. It's a reciprocity for me. Come on.
And we also have Izzy Absolutely with us, who is a producer, actor, creator, creative from Brooklyn.
That is true.
And I had the pleasure of meeting Izzy at Chef Bean's play. She starred in the play. She was one of my favorite monologues in the play. But you've always been very nice and genuine, even like when you didn't even know me on that first day. Like, you were very helpful and like welcoming. So I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad that you felt that.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I got to have them on the podcast. Like, I remember thinking that, like, that's going to be a good one. But how are you today?
I'm good. I'm very surprised in my professionalism. No, actually, I'm not surprised in my professionalism, but I'm surprised that I got the energy that I'm bringing, because last night was kind of wild, and I don't go out like that. And last night I was definitely outside, and I was like, damn, tomorrow is at 1:30. I got to make sure that, like, my voice is not crackling, because if I have too much fun, you'll hear it in the voice.
Right.
So it tells on me. So I was like, all right, 10 o'clock, I'm going to get up, make sure that I'm out the door by like 12:15, no later. I want to make sure I show up. I come punctual for this. I respect this whole thing that y'all going on. And then I put my GPS on. I was like 1 mile away. Well, damn, I'm going to be super early. I was outside just looking up like, damn, I wish I could catch the door or something like that. But I'd rather be overly prompt and ready than running in sweating, like trying to catch my breath. So it's a good issue to have.
And I appreciate that too, because I've had guests on before and they're like 45 minutes late. And I'm just
no, we don't play them
I
kind of
paid
games.
for this time and now it's wasted.
Yeah,
so I definitely appreciate that. I love people who are punctual and on time, and you're early. So yeah I definitely appreciate that. Today we're gonna be talking about a lot of things today. I'm not gonna keep it at one topic.
Okay.
But before we get into it, can you tell the people or the listeners about what you do? Because I know you do a lot of things. So if you could summarize that up. What do you do?
Who is Izzy Absolutely?
Okay, I actually put notes in that because I felt like that was going to be the first question, but I had all that free time outside catching that wind, so I'm ready. I'm a 5'10" brown-skinned stallion from Brooklyn, New York.
Stallion.
I'm a content curator. I am a post-producer, and I'm also a line producer. I write, I produce, I edit, I direct, I shoot, I do photography. I'm a self-shooter. I'm just into like making good shit excellent.
Right.
So that's kind of me in a nutshell. But if you wanted to get like the elevator condensed 9 to 5 type of explanation, I'm a post producer for a digital ad agency, and we get a plethora of work from various brands. And currently right now I'm doing a lot of Nike work. I've been doing a lot of Nike work from the last year. So if you go on their website and you see like these stories about authenticators or what they call them, I had my hands in that. And there's a big billboard that's about to be dropping at what they call it, cryptocurrency.Laguna Beach, whatever that whole name is, there, and then like at 42nd Street. So I'm pretty excited to see the endless amount of hours that I put towards that, like, poof. Because online is cool, but when you see it like on a billboard, it's like a different type of energy.
It's a different feeling.
Yeah. So, and then on top of all of that, I have a YouTube talk series called Pass the Bluntness. I started in 2019. All of the things that I said that I can do, that project pushed me into doing that because like many content curators, developers, on a like you start off with a dream and you're like, okay, I got the team, I'm gonna get the team, and then you realize like, damn, it's really on me.
Right.
It's really on me to get this shit. Like my future really depends on me. And then once you get like, once you just become in serenity with that, then you end up finding out like, yo, I'm doing more than I thought I was gonna do when the seed was planted in my mind. But going into season 2 with a whole different mindset, like I have a mentor, super dope mentor now, and she's like, I know you did season 1 100% guerrilla style by yourself, but going into season 2, you have goals that you want to bring into it, but I'm going to challenge you to not produce this like another season of YouTube, produce this like a television show. And being that I work in that lane professionally, like I know all that it takes to put on like an actual budgeted like TV show. And at first I was like, this is gonna be cool. And then I'd make my notes and stuff, and she's like, killing it. Like, nah, you need more time. Like, but what about that? And I'm like, damn, all of these different angles. But
Right.
I'm excited to see and to show like the complete elevation of where I started, which was the foundation, getting out the mud, to then actually having some people with specialized skill sets
Right.
to bring it in to be elevated, and then like potentially talking investor talk. So, you know, that's really exciting, having some, you know, monies.
Some money.
Have a little bit of
Money.
cha-ching. Cha-ching is my Cash App, in case you wanted to know. No, but but just growth, man. Like, you know, there's so much stuff that you see. People like, your only competition is who you were last year or when you first started, and just being cognizant of that. Like, and then you look back like, damn, I really did that, and I'm really doing that. And then to meet up with other people or to connect with other people like Chef Beans, who I've known for, I guess, like 2.5 years or so. And like, it's just amazing. To even be in this space is amazing. Like, I didn't know what I was walking into because I saw a couple of previous episodes y'all at the table.
Right.
And like, okay, and I'm like, oh, this is mixy.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little different. It's a little
very
different this time
very
around.
sexy in here. Very, okay. I see it like sponsor Sirius Radio type joint. Like, I like it. But yeah.
So this is a personal question for me. What exactly is a producer's role when it comes to bringing those things together? Like, because I don't really, like, I know the term producer, or yeah, I know director, producer, but what exactly does a producer do? Like, how do they take the project to the next level?
You got time?
Yeah.
It depends on what kind of producer you are, because there are different type of producers. So line producers are like, depending on what kind of project it is, if it's like a smaller scale, the usual need is a line producer, and what their position is to make sure that the project is like flowing from like inception, helping you get all the pre-production stuff, creative development, down to the actual shoot, which is a production. And then a lot of times they oversee the post-production side if they have that experience. So that's one. Then you have post-producers, which is my specific craft. And after everything from production is wrapped and everything like that, all of the finishing pieces that actually makes the content consumable for the audience is where my lane kind of shines. So not only being responsible for hiring the team of editors, visual effects artists, motion graphics, sound mixers, whatever that project needs, but then also like managing their time. Like, okay, looking at when we need reviews for a client or when is our final delivery and the assets, like making sure that entire process goes as to schedule, and predicting and anticipating any potential issues that might happen along the way, getting that together, and just making sure like what the whole point of what the project was for and was supposed to be actually makes it to fruition. So it's a lot of weight, and there's a common like catchphrase, model attitude, which I fucking hate, that production people, shout out to all my people in productions, y'all got them 18-hour days on your feet, y'all can have that, but we'll fix it in post. And it's like, if you just put a little bit extra effort in the pre-production and the actual things that went on set, it wouldn't be so much work in post. And then when people see stuff, they're like, oh, that shit looks dope. It looks amazing. They did a great job. Like, great. Shout out to the director. Shout out to the actors. Shout out to the... And the truth of the matter is, like, a lot of the shit you see didn't actually happen. It's a lot of magic. I've been on a couple, like... I don't want to call out no names and stuff, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but
you don't have to use no names.
I've been in a couple of projects where, like, at the end of it all, it looks like shit was sweet, and it was like, no, it was a lot of work in post to make it look like that. So
right,
yeah,
that was a great explanation.
Oh.
Like, I feel like I know now.
Yeah,
but how did you? So you used to live in Brooklyn. So how did you make your way to LA? Like, how was that?
Okay, so born and raised in Brooklyn. Shout out to the Ville, never ran, never will. So I went to school upstate in Buffalo. Shout out to upstate New York, SUNY babies and that whole population out there. I got my degree in media production. I always knew that I wanted to be involved in television. I used to have like this obsession with credits when I was really young. And, you know, most people, they go to the movies or they watch the show, the credits come out and nobody like cares. And I don't have anybody in my family that's within this field, so it's not like I was kind of like inspired by anybody in particular. But then when I would see like, oh my God, look at all of them people that were a part of this project, like, that's crazy. Like, and what's even crazy is these people are part of this dope shit. Their name is being plastered all over this content, but they get to live regular lives. Then I would see like the award shows, and then you looking like, who's that in the front row? Like, you know who the celebrities are, but I was more focused on who's that in proximity. Now, of course, you know, they have seat fillers and things of that nature, and I actually participated in those type of opportunities. But a lot of them people that be real close be real important, but they get to keep their identity, get the checks, and still have like
your sanity.
The sanity. Yeah. And I was like, the more I got a little bit more aware, I was like, this is my deal. I really want to do this. Moved to Atlanta because at this time, 2013-ish, when I graduated, everybody was like, Atlanta was like, it was the place to be. You know, all of these different shows are popping out of there. There's all of this talks about this is the new Black Hollywood.
Right.
I heard the rent was cheap. I was like, I can do that. Graduated in May, moved to Atlanta in July. My mom
was on the move.
Yeah, wow. I've always been like, this is what I want. This is the middle ground. Let's figure it out. My mom was like, you're not moving to no Atlanta. I have no family, no friends there. Only visited Atlanta one other time before I moved. Wow. Same situation like when I moved to Cali. And my mom was like, how you gonna move to Atlanta with what money? She didn't support me in that in any kind of way. Not mad at that, but she just was like, for what? Like, why don't you stay here? Like, get acclimated, have some bills come into your name. And I was like, nah, because, you know, I love New York City. Like, I want to have my kids like raised in there, even though it's not the same New York as I had it when I was younger. But just like that mentality, that grit, that like go getter, like, we got to figure it out, baby. Like, what is you doing? Like, even if you chilling, like, what is you still doing? So I knew, like, growing up, I would see kids go to school, go away from school, come back home, and you get caught up in like the degular lifestyle. Y'all just at BBQs. Y'all like, you just at 42nd Street. You just, you know, and I was like, I don't want to get comfortable. So I'm going to make sure that I'm always moving. Got my U-Haul, and I was like, I don't got no fucking connections. But, you know, I got all this experience from college, all of these dope ass internships and all of these hours and all of these places. Like, someone's going to see my resume and then be like, oh my gosh, she's from New York, we want her. Well, that shit didn't happen.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, so how many times I'm gonna apply to Tyler Perry Studios? Like, how many times am I gonna apply to CNN? How many times am I gonna apply to the Weather Network? How many times I'm gonna apply to some, like, just anything? I did do something down there with their like Georgia Public Broadcasting network studio for a bit, but it wasn't, the chickens wasn't hitting like that. And you know, I'm Jamaican and Panamanian. My mother's side is fully Jamaican, so I come from a very like strong but also to the book type T background. And my mother was a principal at this time. She's retired now, but she was like, you need to get into education. And I was like, what?
Yeah, like that's
do
not
you
what
know
I
that
wanna
I'm
do,
telling
though.
federal
Right.
loan I don't have no money because I'm out here doing this particular craft? Like, education is not what the fuck I say I don't have no money to pay back loans
Right.
for. And she just was like, it's stable. You do your 10 years and you get your
Loans forgiven?
Yeah, not that
Yeah.
for sure. You get your loan forgiven, and then you get your pension and all this other kind of stuff. You get your medical, and it's safe, and you work well with kids, and you've always worked with, personality, da 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 da. And I was like, man, but that's not what I wanted to do.
Right. And you would be miserable. And I like how you're saying, like, you didn't take the safe option. You took
But I didn't, yeah.
You did?
Oh, but I did because
I'm out. Let me let you finish the
because
story.
after like 6 months, I was working for this like internet company. I'm not gonna say their name because they have a lot of legal issues right now. A lot of people are suing them, but I got this job, works like slinging hot spots when I was down there. No, legit, like before it was even, and I don't even think too many people know about this brand. It was like really big in the South. And again, they have a lot of legal issues. I don't know if they got that all ironed out, so I'm not gonna say their name. And I mean, I've always been personable, always been good at like talking to people. So within like 3 months of like being a sales rep, I became manager. So I had like one store out of Buckhead, one store out of Sandy Springs, and I was getting paper. And because that particular company, it was not only they only sold internet equipment and services. It was one of them kind of joints like we not checking credit scores, we not even taking real names. You can get 10 hot spots and be like John Blue, John Yellow, John Red, John Green. We don't care you got that bread. So then I got really cool with a lot of the financial magicians in Atlanta. And I was their girl, and they would send their people to me like, yo, she gonna hook you up. And then they doing whatever they do. The IP address, it's not connected to shit. So I was really like, I'm straight. Like, I'm not only getting commission, but I'm making good sales. I'm a manager of 2 stores. Like, I'm bringing the people into the company. Like, everybody's loving it. And then boom, one day they was like, yeah, this shit is folding. Like, because it was so fucking janky. Let's say you come in there and you pay with a credit card, your credit card is forever on file and going to get hit. So even if you cancel the service, they still charging you. And there's nothing we can do in the store. All we do is sell product. We don't do anything else. We don't fix equipment. We don't fucking help you with your account. Or we the same 800 number that we telling you is what we gotta call. So people are like, yo, so after so many cases of that and people finding out their operations overseas somewhere in India or whatever the fuck they was at, like, the company, like, disappeared. And my mother was like, now the fuck what? And I was like, you right. She was like, yo, go through Teach for America. We hire a lot of teachers from there. It's a great program. I'm like, I ain't trying to be no goddamn teacher. I'm out there hustling. I'm slinging hot spots. Like, I'm trying to... And I was like, you know what, to shut my mother up just because I respect her, but I want to shut her up, I'm going to go and apply. Mm-hmm. I put like 30% energy into it. I just wanted to do it just so I could send her the screenshot of the confirmation. Well, I'm pretty absolute in everything that I do. That comes with a lot of why my name is Izzy Absolutely. And my 30% is more than most.
Right.
So 1 round turned into 2 rounds, turned into 10 rounds, turned into in-person interviews, turned into a whole summer cohort, which I would never do again. It's like the fucking Peace Corps, Marines, the Army, and getting your master's in education in 1 summer. It was intense. Started off with like 300 people. It was like 20 people that graduated from that program. And we had to take every single exam underneath the sun to be highly certified because we were on a accelerated track that we have to compete with people who are coming out of school with degrees in education. So it's kind of like, why am I choosing you when this person put 4 years in studying it? But the thing between those programs and people that go to school is, like, when you go into school, you're a master of that particular content. Right. They don't teach you classroom management. They don't teach you the skills that you really need to be a teacher when you're working in like schools with badass kids. Right. So people that have that background are more desirable because they know those programs are efficient and preparing you for the actual interactions with kids. Mm-hmm. So did that for like a year, elementary school, hated it. And it was like on the other side of town. I lived in Norcross. The school was in Union City. That's like 50-minute drive. Wow. And I would look at the American flag fly every single morning on some real HBO Max shit, and I was like, I hate it here. I hate it here. I hate everything about this place. I'm so mad I gotta wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to just make sure I'm here by 6. I hate the cries of these kids in the hallway. I hate some of the, it just wasn't for me.
Right.
But I was pretty good at it because like being a good teacher is being a good person.
Right.
And I feel like if you're really good at managing interpersonal relationships, it can take you into multiple things. Anyway, did that for a year and went up, did middle school for a couple of years, taught science and math. That was cool, but I'm like, y'all really not mature enough for me. Like, we're not, like, the thing with education, which I still kind of miss, but like the way that this shit is going, and like I could talk about education all day. You would think that I was a fucking principal.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, when did you move to LA? Because that was
3 years ago. I moved here,
okay.
And I was in Atlanta for 5, and I taught for 5 years when I was there. And I went from elementary to middle school, and I retired in high school. And giving these kids like real, like, I'm a realist. I only got 2 sides about me. I'm either going to be 100% transparent or I'm gonna be silent. I can't do the fake shit.
Right.
So being a teacher for, being a teacher for younger kids, like you gotta be a lot of that fake shit. Like, okay, come on, counting to 3. I'm gonna turn. I'm not doing all of that. I said sit down. What the fuck you talking about? And I was like, I still have my very much so New York mannerisms, which I will never lose. So being out in the South, the kids were like, oh, you kind of like, you young. We think you like 19, but you low key on your shit. And I'm like, yeah. Did the high school thing. That was my favorite. Loved high school. Loved it so much. It made me sad. Loved it so much it made me sad because every day I'm looking at kids between 18 and 23. And I'm just like, yo, all black kids. I only wanted to teach at inner city schools. Like I wanted to really put in the energy with it where it was needed the most. And being not only a teacher, but like an auntie, like a mother, like a counselor, and like a life coach every day, I'm like, yo, the time goes by so fast. Like just giving them the baselines of like what school does not teach, because they just really teaching these kids to be test takers, to be honest. Right. And that's really fucked up because like, you know, what if you're not a good test taker? Then you're gonna end up asking somebody if they want extra ketchup packets, how many? And, you know, then I was like, yo, I'm telling these kids about being intentional with their time and being focused and watching who you surround yourself, and time is short and life moves fast, and I wish I knew, and if I knew this and the third. And I'm here 5 years in the game. It's not what I moved to Atlanta for.
Right. So you're really talking to yourself at that point.
Yeah, really. Yeah. And the kids, like, they believed my passion behind my message because it was true. And I was like, when am I going to talk to myself like that?
Man, that's the hardest part, is taking your own advice.
Taking your own advice.
I work with kids too, like in a therapy setting. And a lot of times the messages that I'm trying to get across to them, like, I check myself like, oh, dang, like, I need to work on that.
Yeah.
Like, I need to do this. I'm telling them, but this is what I need to do.
Very sobering. And then in that last 5th year, I had the opportunity to produce a couple short films that did really, really well. And then I was like, yo, I can do this. Like, I've been teaching for 5 years and I haven't gotten a chance to break into the industry, but I've been doing these independent projects, and it relit my fire. Like, yo, you actually can do this. Had a friend that moved to LA like 6 months before, came out here to visit, looking around Hollywood and everything like that. I'm like, yo, I'm gonna be working in this bitch. Like, I'm gonna really be, and I just, it's really crazy how everything kind of like moved forward, because when he lived in the Valley and he like was taking me around different areas and stuff like that. And I was like by Capitol Records, I saw Viacom, which was actually my first job. And I was like, I'm gonna be working here. I'm gonna be in Hollywood. I bought a little Hollywood sign, real cheesy, still got it in my crib. People be like, really though? But I'm like, this Hollywood sign means so much more than the Hollywood sign, like, you know? And he was like, yo, if you really serious, then do it. Met this girl that was a post-production supervisor for a BET show. Went to dinner with her. She didn't know me from nowhere. She was kind of cool with the guy that was out here. He was doing some sound work on that show. Mm-hmm. And I told her what I wanted to do, and she was like, do it. I was like, this is another city I'm moving with, no friends, no family. And I'm like, I got like, this shit gotta work. Like, I can't, like, you know, I could always fall back on education, which is dope, but I never wanted to even really get into that shit.
Right, exactly.
You know? And then I came out here in 2018, paid my first month rent, just to hold a spot, was doing FaceTime, Zooms in the spot. Didn't even know nothing about Koreatown. Didn't know nothing. And I was like, yo, if this shit don't work, then at least I know I really tried. And then I can grow old and be 45 and 50 and everything and being like, at least I know I really betted on me.
Right.
And I hit that girl up when I got down here, and she was like, hit me when you move. She's like, people say they gonna call me all the time. But they never move, this, that, and the third. And she knew what my situation was, again, like moving out here dolo. She was like, maybe if I have something I could plug you in, we'll see.
Right.
That was it. I didn't do nothing.
And I really admire that about you. Like, you're a go-getter.
Yes.
You know? And I felt that energy from when we first met. And the reason why I wanted you to be on this episode is because people always ask me to talk about imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. And since you have accomplished so many things since you've been out here, like now you're working with Nike and everything, and you know where you started from. Mm-hmm. So it's like, now, where do you get that confidence? Because some people still get to that point and feel like they don't deserve it.
Yeah.
You know, or feel like, oh, people are going to find out that I'm not really as good as I think I am, or as I appear to be. So with you, I'm wondering, where does that confidence come from, and how do you stay so sure of yourself even when you are in these big rooms, working with Nike and everything like that?
That's a good question. When you told me this episode's about imposter syndrome, I was like, why she picked that for me? Like, what the hell? Then I Googled it because, like, off the connotation, which I'm sure, many of people might just off the strength, I thought it was more like trying to play something that you're not. But then when I Googled it, it's actually a little bit more deeper than that. It's feeling like you don't deserve what you accomplished because you don't see, like, you're not even recognizing the value that you, and the accolades that you actually accomplished, which I was like, damn, that little twist on that adjective and that one is a little different.
Yeah, it's a little different.
But to answer your question, like, I really think it really falls back into, like, proving myself right and then making my family proud. Everybody in my family is, like, very successful, but very safe professions. And, even to this day, like, I tell my mom what I'm doing, and I'm like, you could go to Nike.com and see my work, or you can go, like, to this website or whatever the case may be. And she's like, she's happy for me because I'm, like, doing what I said I was going to do, and I'm, surviving and doing very well. But it's like, but you're not, like, where's your pension gonna be? Like, like, it's because she's an older generation. It doesn't add up to, like, true success in a sense. And it's like, I'm constantly, I want to do well for myself first and foremost, but I'm also trying to, like, make sure that the people who may not fully understand through my victories. Right.
And I like what you said about proving yourself right. Not proving others wrong, but proving yourself right. Yeah. That's a key thing. Beans, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, and I echo those same sentiments because, we're both transplants. I know there's a lot of people who live out here, but as transplants and as things get planted inside of you, we know what makes sense to us. We know through our experience exactly what we want to do, to the point where we see it very vividly. But when it comes to explaining that to your parents or people who still caught up with being on 25 or 42nd Street or whatever they're used to, it can sound like a foreign language. So when you are operating in that space, and it's hard as hell, people don't know how it is moving to space, not knowing anybody, looking around and just trying to figure it out. So when things actually do start to sprout and you're trying to communicate that feeling to people, they're so stuck in their ways. They're like, but where's that pension though? Like, where's this connected to? And you start to get fatigued. But I think at the same time, finding ways to still reassure and be proud of ourselves is paramount, because though everybody else might not be able to understand the feeling or know exactly what we're going through, that's what we got to give ourselves that pat on the back. Like, but I did this shit. You don't know how much it took for me to get here. You might see it maybe physically, but even the internal things that you go through when you're at that crossroad. Do I want to leave this job that's giving me all this bread and my bills are taken care of, but am I leading with that same integrity? How can I tell these kids and these students what to do if I'm not being radical with my own decision making?
Right. Yeah.
I was going to ask both of you guys a question. because imposter syndrome is not a mental illness, right? It's just a thing that people experience. And I wanted to know your take on, do you think it's more so it comes from within, or does it come from other people not really believing in what you're doing? Because she mentioned a lot of times how her mom wanted her to be a teacher and wanted her to, you know, play it safe and have the pension and everything. And that affects you, you know, that affects you. And sometimes it causes you the self-doubt. So I was wondering, like, do you think it's more so within, or you think it's like from outside factors? Because both of you guys are pretty successful. And I'm sure there's times where people have told you, like, I don't know about that. Like, you know, maybe you should do this, or maybe you should do something safer. So what do you think? I'll let Izzy go first on this one.
Okay. Yeah, I think it is a very delicate but specifically detailed cocktail of both of those things. You know, when you are, like being said, you have your vision, you have your intuition, your discernment, you're in your mode of serenity, and you're like, okay, I know, you writing it out, you seeing a vision, you got it all, and you're trying to articulate to individuals so they can catch on, can be very difficult because a lot of times people don't have that for themselves. So if you're talking to individuals that don't even have that drive, they've given up on things that were at one point in time a dream or a passion, or maybe not even given up, but they've had a lot of challenges and obstacles that overtake their imagination or the drive to be successful. They can't even, you really kind of talking a foreign language in a sense. And then to meet other people that have that same drive in their own respects, it's sometimes far and in between, because from my personal experiences, you know, Beans is my guy. A lot of people, they see that as competition. Like, oh, you got this going, that's kind of similar to me, or I got certain areas where that crosses over. Like, I'm happy for you, but I've been doing it 1 month before you, so low key, if you pop before me, I'm gonna feel some kind of, like, it's all type of shit that you gotta deal with people. And then you got like your family, you know, which should be, you know, in some respects, like your first line of support and praise and cheerleading and champion. You know, they get broken and down into the same kind of pockets as regular ass people, because if all you know is 30 years of this particular kind of service, how can you think about the kill switch? My mother, like, my grandparents moved from Jamaica when my mother was like 7. She's never lived anywhere else but Brooklyn, New York. My mother has never been to Atlanta until I moved to Atlanta. My mother has never been to Cali until I moved to Cali. So it's like, now she's, you know, she's an older woman, she's retired, but it's like, you never even had like to even move outside of the place where you came when you were a little girl.
Right.
So I can't really expect you to kind of understand, like, I give your confusion a little bit of grace,
right,
but I can't look at that as like, oh, because you don't understand and maybe I don't.
Right.
I know me.
Right.
Yeah.
I know me, you know what I'm saying? And I'm putting in the work. And then when you have like the proof to go into the pudding, you know, to make it make sense, that definitely helps. But like, it was no easy feat, because I got into this game as a PA. Like, I really started from the bottom of bottoms, like working for low-key, like, slave master mentality type white producers, that I had to, like, you know, really prove, like, yo, you're not doing me no favors. I know that I don't have all the years of experience as you have, or maybe your previous team had, but you're gonna learn about me today. Like, don't
Right.
don't let the fact that I haven't been in this game for 5 years mean that I'm 5 years behind the curve. Like, not for nothing, I was in a whole nother profession before here. Like, I'm very able. I have the facility and the ability. Don't do that. And actually, when I learn what the fuck is going on now, you can't stop me. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like going back to the idea of like when they didn't want slaves to know how to read. You know what I'm saying? They didn't want us to educate ourselves, because you could beat me down, break me down, everything, but you can't take away my mind.
Right.
You know what's funny about that? I also have experienced that too, from production or just people. Like, I'm paying attention to how people treat you when they feel as though you're inadequate. but it feels as though you're not paying attention to what's going on. Understand that I decided to be here. So I thought that was very interesting, especially in production. Especially producing things, but also being a sponge and still learning things, but people not knowing like which side of the coin you're on. So I think that's very telling. And also to speak about imposter syndrome, I feel as though that gets developed based on how you respond to other people's expectations.
Yes.
Because it's, you're more so, am I not doing enough for my family's expectations, for these people expectations, these people who's probably known me since elementary school or high school or college, am I doing that? But once you unlearn that and realize, why do I even care? And why am I even jumping on that? People just gave me these expectations. I didn't agree to those.
Right.
I didn't agree to those when I was brought into this earth, but I think that's where a lot of imposter syndrome gets, inflated. But where I am with dealing with imposter syndrome is giving myself that grace, myself that compassion, forgiving myself for mistakes that I had to learn from, and be like, that's what you thought was right at the time. At the end of the day, it's your truth. Still move forward. So it's like I have an interesting relationship with imposter syndrome, but when it does show up, I'm like, you that nigga. Like, what are we talking about, bro?
Right.
What are we really talking about?
You have those aha moments, because I've been thinking that recently about my profession, like with therapy and working with the kids. And sometimes I feel like, I don't really know what I'm doing with these kids. Like, I have this degree, I have this experience, but I don't really know what I'm doing. And then like sometimes I'll have those days where I say something and it clicks with my client and I end up helping them come to a realization. I'm like, damn, man, you good at this. You could do this in your sleep. Like, why you be down yourself, So I've had that with more so the podcast than with like therapy, because podcasting is a new thing for me and I don't really, I know now, but before coming in, I was just like, I want to talk about mental health. I want to help people. I want them to share their story. So let's just do this. Let's just make it work. I didn't know anything about editing and all that stuff. Like, it was a lot, but now I'm like, don't so much focus on trying to be the perfect podcaster. Like, just get your message out there, and people appreciate that. Yeah. It don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be the best interviewer or whatever. But when you have that good message and that good content, it's like, it's fine. It's fine. And that's how I started, feeling more confident in myself when it comes to podcasting. I saw something that said imposter syndrome is actually more common in women than with men.
I could definitely talk to that, but you gonna?
Now I'm even though I'm not a woman, because I'm gonna be short with it. I can just make a guess, and I guess Izzy, you will elaborate on it more. There's a book out there called "Mothers Who Can't Love." I'm gonna tell you, if I'm gonna talk about it, I'm gonna talk about it. I read that book just a little bit, and a lot of times people talk about, daddy issues when it comes to a lot of women, but there's women who have interesting relationships with their mother as well, because I feel as though they're looking at them as, how can I emulate this? I'm supposed to be with, and when there's crossroads, like, I don't actually like how you're living your life or different things like that, but you are looking at this as the pinnacle of who you should potentially be. And I feel like men were taught to be more independent, do what you want to do and blah, blah, blah. But women are more so molded to be a little more docile or a little more, this is who you're supposed to, I don't know. That's why I connect.
I agree, but I want to hear Izzy's.
Yeah, me too.
I
just wanted to be brief, but I feel like Izzy is about to go to it directly.
I have like 10 different type of caveats for that whole point. Definitely to piggyback off of what Bean says, absolutely. Yeah. Especially when you have a mother that has accomplishments and successes. Like, the only thing they want you to do is be like them or better. So that's a challenge. It's always easy to beat 0. But if you're trying to be 100 and you like 10 years old, you need some experiences with that to go into that. Also, too, like in a professional sense, I feel like, especially spaces where there's not a lot of women, that makes it even more of a imposter syndrome type of, like that could come up a lot, because you're like, I know when I'm waking up and I'm talking to myself and I'm planning, I know what I'm talking about. But then you're in a room full of like men, white men to be specific, and they're just like, you know, they still trying to figure out like, how did you get here?
Right.
And there are no off days. There are no, oh, we're going to give her grace. There is no, like, that same extension of grace and understanding, or like, oh, turn the other eye type of thing, or we'll just excuse it, doesn't appear as much for women in certain spaces. And now we're talking about you just not even in a space that is male dominated and you're a minority, but also you're in leadership. So now you're not even just like, okay, like when I was a PA, I wasn't really that much of a threat because I was, you know, a PA, like I was there to serve and to make sure that people were comfortable and that, you know, the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed. Then I became a coordinator, a little bit more power, but still lower on the spectrum. Then I became a supervisor. Now I have like a team of people underneath me, but I still have people to answer to. So now, you know what's crazy? This reminds me, I was working on a show for ABC, and the office was in Burbank, and there were a couple of other shows that were on that particular floor. And again, the majority of the people are like white people or white males. You don't see women like that, and you definitely don't see black women like that. The PA that was on that show was a black girl. I personally got her hired for that. I was working for the producer from BT, and he always was like, whenever I have a show, I want you to work with me, I want you to work with me. And he learned to not only respect me as a woman,